Hey, what's up everybody? This is Muth24, and this is part 2 of my review of the 1 to 100 scale Master Grade Unicorn Gundam OVA version. You can click on the link here in the annotation to go to the first part if you missed it. But with that, I'm going to jump right into part 2 here with the transformation into destroy mode. For the transformation mode here, I'm going to kind of go step by step with the different body parts, but I'm going to start off with the head here. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to kind of take these pieces off the side here. You're going to open the head up, swing this piece back in, and once you slide the face forward, you'll just pull it down over top of that unicorn face piece, and then for the horns splitting into the V-fin there, just going to split those apart. And that's part of the reason I didn't use the stickers, was because I was afraid if I did that too much that they would start to peel up. And then you are going to take the face pieces, you're going to wrong side there. Basically spin them around and then have these little pointed parts, which were at the back of the head before, facing downwards at the front to give it more of a traditional style Gundam looking head. And if you'll notice there, instead of the normal red plastic, you've actually got the clear red of the cycle frame for the chin piece and for the interior of the head. And then there are some black with metallic green stickers in there for the eyes, which I forgot to mention in the first part. Probably the next easiest part to cover is the shoulders and the arms there. And for the shoulders, you're just going to pop that piece up and then kind of wiggle these pieces out so that this now becomes a flat gray piece instead of the decal facing the outside as you had before. For the arms, you're going to pull this part down at the wrist until you hear it snap, and then you're going to pull this part out, and there you can see more of the cycle frame in there, and then you can also swing this out to attach one of his beam sabers on there if you wanted to. Otherwise you can pull the handle itself out and just put it in his hand with the peg there. For the torso, you're going to kind of pull, and you can either grab the peg there or you can grab the front and back of the whole side of the chest, but really you're just going to kind of have to wiggle it gently until you kind of feel it pull out, and sometimes that back part will fall off like it just did on me, but really it's not entirely a bad thing because it goes on easy enough, and it can make it easier to get this piece up here, which normally they tell you to use like the beam saber or something, but if that comes off, it's easy enough to just grab it in there, pull it up, and then pop this piece back on, and then you'll just do the same thing for the other side, and then you'll open these flaps here on the chest. For the side skirts, all you're going to do is pull that down. For the front skirts, you're going to have to kind of pull this out gently so as not to snap anything off the edge there. I haven't had it break or anything, but just a precaution. And then you're going to swing that up. And then for the back skirts, all you're going to have to do is flip it open, and then you can see the thruster and some of the cycle frame inside of there. And then for the hinge here on the back, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to pop it up and then swing it back down so that the front here has more cycle frame showing through the torso. And once you get the torso transformed, it should look something like this. And actually, since I forgot to mention it a minute ago, the crotch piece here is supposed to open up and reveal more cycle frame. For the legs, I'm going to start up here with the thigh, and all you're going to have to do is pull that part out, slide it up, and then lock it back into place. You're going to take these little gray parts on the legs and flip those out, and you kind of have to dig your fingernail in there a little bit to get at them, but then you're just going to pull the leg up and then push them back into the slots above to lock it back into place. For the knee piece, you're going to kind of pop that out of place and then pull back on the thruster, and it pushes the cycle frame forwards, and then you're going to bend this piece, and there's a little kind of a bar there that's going to just kind of rest in this socket. It doesn't really lock into place, but once you get it in there, it'll look like that. And then for the foot, what you're going to have to do is take these little pieces on the side, kind of rotate them downwards. You're going to flip this piece up and then bend that piece up into place until they kind of look like that. You're going to push the front of the foot down and then bring the back of the foot out to make like a high-heeled looking foot. For the backpack here, all you're going to have to do is swing the beam sabers out and then spin them up and then rotate them all the way around, and then you're going to open up the thrusters on either side. Again, you're going to do the same thing for this beam saber. And then you've got more of the psycho frame revealed here, and then this little piece here is supposed to come up, although it can be a bit of a pain sometimes. So when you get the new Gundam completely transformed, he definitely shoots out a lot more color than in the Unicorn mode, and despite the fact that I initially expected to be posing him and displaying him more in Unicorn mode, I actually like the Destroy mode a lot more than I thought I would on this Master Raid. And as nice as it looks from the front, there's a lot more detail opened up here on the back, particularly with like the backpacks, inner mechanics, and the thrusters here, which are on small ball joints. I don't know how well you can see them moving around there, but they do wiggle a little bit on those joints. You get some more detail in the back skirt thrusters there, and even the interior of the legs with the psycho frame and the thrusters, and then the inner mechanics of the leg and everything. Taking the Unicorn Gundam apart and transforming each piece separately isn't necessary when you're doing the transformation in Destroy mode. I just figured it'd be easier for the sake of doing it on the video here. But normally I just keep the whole thing together and do it piece by piece. It's relatively smooth. But with it in Destroy mode here, I'm going to do another size comparison with the same two model kits that I used earlier, just to give you guys an idea of how much bigger he looks when he's in Destroy mode. So here we have the Master Grade New Gundam, and you can see the Unicorn is almost as tall. The New Gundam only beats him by a little bit. And here is the Zeta Gundam, which previously in Unicorn mode, the Unicorn Gundam was only marginally taller than the Zeta Gundam, but now you can see he pretty much towers over the Zeta. So first up for weapons, we've got the shield, and you can see here that it's set up for the Unicorn mode. And if you look here on the back, there's a little track that the connector runs on, so you can move it up and down if you want to. It can rotate here at this joint, can bend here, and can also bend here at this smaller connector. To get it into the Unicorn, from the Unicorn mode and Destroy mode, you're going to flip these open and then pull down the middle. And you can't just pull down the middle by itself because these pieces kind of act as a locking mechanism to it. And then if you're going to pop it onto the arm, you're going to bend this out and pop it into this little hole here. And once you've got the shield connected, it does look nice, although the peg here, because of the weight of the shield and the fact that this is relatively loose, the outside of the arm here, it does tend to drag it off to the side. You can remedy this by moving the shield up into a more defensive pose or something, and then it doesn't drag it down as much because then this piece catches into the joint on the arm. But it is a rather disappointing connection there on the arm just because of the fact that it drags it down so much. And there's no handle to put the hand into to make it more stable or anything. Behind the joint that you used to peg the shield into the arm, there's another little peg here, which if you swing this kind of up on an angle there, you can peg that into his backpack, and then he can just carry the shield on his back. Bandai did go ahead and include two clear blue beam sabers here. To me, they almost look like a gray blue, which I'm not really a huge fan of, but I guess Bandai was going for a little bit more subtle look on those. You do get 4 beam saber handles. You get one on the side of either arm there, and I've got this one extended, although you can pull it out and pop it into his hand if you wanted to. And then you've got the 2 on the backpack, and as you can see, you can reach around and grab them, and those ones can also go into his hand with the pegs. The bazooka, even though it's just completely gray with the exception of the decals there, it is nicely detailed throughout. You've got 2 pegs here on the handle to stick it into his hand. The barrel does extend. You've got this secondary handle that can go back and forth. And then the ammo clip can pop out, and then you can close the bazooka up if you want to. The rounds can go on the back skirt through this little hole there. Or rather, I believe it's supposed to go the other way. And then the bazooka, much like with the shield, has an extra peg, which if you pull that out, you can also slide that into his backpack. The beam magnum is also relatively plain looking. I mean, it's mostly just that flat gray, but you do get some of the semi-metallic looking gray on the bar back here and through the backpack connector. You can slide the barrel forwards there, the whole front of the gun, put the clip in and then pull it back. Occasionally if you bump it, it'll fall out, but for the most part it's pretty secure. The handle flips out and you can put that into both hands if you want to with the this handle up here and then the 2 pegs on the main handle. And this also has a backpack connector, as I mentioned, although it is a little bit harder to get out sometimes, and you may have to, use a X-Acto knife or something to get it out. But when you do stick it into the backpack, it's pretty secure. Aside from the one I put in the beam magnum, you do get 2 extra rounds for that weapon, and much like with the bazooka, you can just peg those into the back of his skirts if you don't want to stick them in the beam magnum, and they stay pretty secure. With all the different connectors and the weapons, it is nice to see that Bandai allows you to basically store all of these on the kit at any given time. I mean, with the exception of the beams from the beam sabers, you can get all the weapons and the rounds put on the Unicorn. As with pretty much any Master Grade release, you do get a small unpainted figure of the pilot Benager Lynx here outside of the cockpit. If, say, you wanted to display the Unicorn Gundam on an action base, they do give you a separate connector that is used exclusively for the Unicorn Gundam, and that will slide right into that spot up on top. Now I'm going to be doing a lot of comparisons between the new Gundam Master Grade and the Unicorn Gundam Master Grade, as I mentioned in the first part here. And one of my biggest complaints for those who saw my Master Grade New Gundam review was the fact that the legs don't have that much poseability, and the fact that the weights they used inside the new Gundam's waist and legs don't really do all that much to help it out. I also wasn't a big fan of the fact that there's very little detail on the various pieces of the new Gundam, although with that I'm a bit more lenient because of the fact that it is an older Master Grade. Now, for the Unicorn Gundam, I had the same issues with the legs poseability. You really can't get much more than a 90-degree pose, which is rather disappointing, especially considering how much the technology has progressed for Master Grades up until this point. But in terms of detail, this is a phenomenal kit. Despite the fact that it has not that much color variation, the fact that you've got all these different little panel lines and that work with the transformation mode and all these little inner workings detailed into the kit, it's just really cool. It looks really nice, and the kit does not have really any weight issues if you put it on an action base or if it's just standing up by itself. That said, the waist, having it split out a little bit, only does so much to increase the leg poseability in terms of how you can have it stand or whatever. But it's nice that Bandai went and put in a little bit of extra effort there to make it slightly more poseable in the legs. Unfortunately, the Unicorn Gundam has a number of issues in terms of poseability of its upper torso as well. The arms can only bend a little bit past 90 degrees. The torso, while it can rotate 360, which is nice, it can't wiggle side to side or go back and forth because of the lock mechanism for the destroy mode and unicorn mode. And it is nice, though, that they gave a lot more poseability in the head, and the fact that it doesn't, bump the collars there or anything. You can get a ton of poseability out of that. It gives some more dramatic looks. As far as the transformation mode is concerned, it's sleek, it works really well, everything moves fluidly, and it looks fantastic when you're done with it. There are quite a few weapons and accessories that come with the kit, and you can basically store all of them on the Gundam at once if you want to. In terms of the build, the Unicorn Gundam is really interesting, and I felt like it was quite fun to put it together, especially considering that you've got the Psycho frame there, and I found the torso in particular to be very interesting because of the fact that you've got the cockpit, and then the Psycho frame, and then the transformation parts around that, and then the outer frame. It just adds an extra level of difficulty and just overall fun into building the kit. Now, taking everything into account, this is a relatively expensive Master Grade in comparison to some other ones, especially for what you get out of the box. But I would say if you are a big fan of the Unicorn Gundam, or are trying to collect lead Gundam from every series, the Master Grade Unicorn Gundam OVA version is the version to get over the version cow release, or if you want to get the HD color version with the MS cage and fork out a little bit of extra cash for that, that's also an excellent choice. Just do realize that this Master Grade isn't quite up to par in terms of poseability with a lot of more recent kits. So that pretty much wraps up my review of the Master Grade OVA version of the Unicorn Gundam. Be sure to comment below, subscribe if you like what you see, and with that, I will see you guys next time.